Urgent Birds fan, look at what just happened. Nobody saw this coming, huh? But first, make sure to subscribe to the channel because we bring you daily videos with the latest birds news, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss anything.
Eagles. Mid-round interior defenders who could be available for the Eagles in NFL Drafty. The Eagles could address other needs in rounds 1 and 2 of the draft. If they look for a DT after that, they'll have solid options in the middle rounds. We've heard Howie Roseman say this about the Philadelphia Eagles and their roster-building style so often that we find ourselves making the same statement.
Good teams can never have enough good defensive linemen. Or was it the other way around? Now that we think about it, his statement referenced a question about the offensive line. Anyway, you get the idea. Maybe the better point is this. Great. Teams win in the trenches, and we expect Philly to do so as long as this regime is in place. If you haven't had your fill of cliches, here's another. Most quarterbacks at every level of football hate immediate pressure up the middle. No one knows that better than our birds, so as another NFL draft nears, we expect Philly to address their needs at the defensive line's interior. By the end of April, many expect the Eagles to fill some holes at edge rusher and add some depth along the O-line. Maybe we'll see an interior defender added in round 3 or 4. Having Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and Moro Ojomo in the fold for a few more years seemingly allows them to add to other cupboards early. Once we put a bow on round 2 of the 2025 NFL Draft, we assume there's a chance that the best defensive tackle prospects will be long gone. Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, and Walter Nolan will have all heard their names called by the time we're moving. Through the end of the second round of picks, Derek Harmon, Darius Alexander, TJ Sanders, and Tyleek Williams may have also found their new homes in the NFL by then. We could be off by a name or two, maybe not. But if we've nailed our theory, here's a ranking of the best options that should be available. Jot these names down if you haven't already done so. Must read ranking most realistic edge options for the Eagles at pick 32, Shemar Turner. Texas A&M Aggies Shemar Turner has been solid for the Aggies. Still, the chances of him consistently dominating at the next level seem slim. He'd be a nice prospect for Clint Hurts' tutelage, however, and as part of a rotation where he isn't under any immediate pressure, he could do well. We really like his teammates, 2 edge rushers, Nick Scorton and Shamar Stewart. Omar Norman Lott, Tennessee Volunteers. If you like interior defensive linemen who put pressure on the QB, Omar Norman Lott is your guy. He may be a better pass rusher than run defender, but he's decent at doing either. Alfred Collins, Texas Longhorns, 6'5" and 320 pounds. This is certainly the quintessential Howie Roseman selection. Place him next to Jordan Davis in obvious running situations, and no one will ever be able to run on the Eagles with any consistency ever again. CJ West, Indiana Hoosiers West, is one of the shorter D tackles at 6'2", but his 317-pound frame causes issues. Has more of a wide-bodied defender better suited for the 43 scheme than a nose tackle in the 34. NFL coaches will love that he provides meaningful snaps in both obvious running and passing situations. He notched 2 sacks in 2024 to go along with his 42 total tackles. Joshua Farmer, Florida State Seminoles Farmer, is a 6'3", 305-pounder who plugs running lanes and does well when asked to rush the passer. He notched 4 sacks in 2024 after collecting 5 in 2023. Amari Caldwell, Oregon Ducks Philly, has experimented with the prospect of adding a backup nose tackle behind Jordan Davis. They gave up on Olive Sagapolu and Noah Ellis, but Amari Caldwell could fill the void if Howie and company are interested. Keep an eye on guys like Jordan Phillips, Maryland, Deone Walker, Kentucky, Aeneas Peebles, Virginia Tech, and J.J. Peggs, Ole Miss. Caldwell will get many looks because of his size, though. He didn't notch any sacks in 2024 at Oregon, but during his previous 2 NCAA seasons at Houston 2022 and 2023, he collected 5 sacks in 20 games. With proper coaching, he could be trouble as part of a rotation like the one we see in the city of brotherly love. Pausing this news just to say that if you want YouTube to keep recommending the latest Eagles Nation news to you, it's very important that you leave a like on this video. Thanks. Now let's get back to the news. Eagles signing former division rival would end March on a high note. The Philadelphia Eagles lost a lot this offseason, but it's still tough to find where they could find an upgrade in free agency. The departures of Josh Sweat and Milton Williams stung on defense, but the Eagles have plug-and-play replacements in Jalix Hunt and Moro Ojomo. Mekhi Becton's defection to the Los Angeles Chargers also hurt, but the Eagles have limited options in a guard market that feels dried up. With most of the foundation of last year's Super Bowl winning team in place, there isn't an obvious area for an upgrade. But the Eagles could look toward a former division rival to make it happen, and his arrival would be a way to end March on a high note. Eagles could poach former division rival Amari Cooper in free agency. Amari Cooper is still a free agent, and he could be a significant addition to the Eagles' passing attack. The 30-year-old had a disappointing 2024 season, catching 44 passes for 547 yards and 4 touchdowns while splitting time between the Cleveland Browns and Buffalo Bills. But there could be a few reasons why things didn't pan out. Cooper was in a wasteland in Cleveland, spending most of last season catching passes from Deshaun Watson. While the team turned to Jameis Winston after Watson tore his Achilles tendon, Cooper wasn't there to reap the benefits that Jerry Jeudy did, getting traded to the Bills after catching 24 passes for 250 yards and a pair of touchdowns over 6 games. Things didn't go much better in Buffalo as Cooper caught 20 passes for 297 yards and 2 touchdowns, but his metrics tell a different story. Cooper posted a higher Pro Football Focus receiving grade in Buffalo 72, 2 than he did in Cleveland, and his 182 yards per route run was a significant improvement over the 1.08 mark he posted with the Browns. Add in a wrist injury and learning a new playbook, and there were several factors standing in the way of a productive season. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, the Eagles had their own concerns. A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith were both productive, but each missed 4 games due to injury. The Eagles also traded for Jahan Dotson with hopes he could man the other receiver spot, but he caught just 19 passes for 216 yards while playing the entire season, putting his future with the Eagles in doubt. Add in trade rumors revolving around tight end Dallas Goedert, and Philadelphia could use some viable insurance. Eagles fans are familiar with Cooper from his time with the Dallas Cowboys, and he's only 1 season removed from posting a career high. Won 250 yards during a Pro Bowl campaign with the Browns in 2023. While it may take some getting used to, Cooper could look great in green and help the Eagles end March heading in the right direction. Philadelphia Eagles 3 best players to target. With 2025 NFL Draft first-round pick here are 3 players the Eagles should target with the 32nd overall pick. Philadelphia Eagles fans, it's official, the 2025 NFL Draft is less than a month away. Soon fans will get to see which players fall from their expected draft spots, which players soar up boards due to postseason activities, and if anyone truly shocking is selected in the first round that no one saw coming, a feat Howie Roseman pulled off a decade ago with Marcus Smith. With 8 picks at their disposal, including 1 in each of the first 4 rounds, plus 4 more in the 5th, the Eagles will be able to move up and down the board as they see fit, with the potential to leave Green Bay with multiple plug-and-play performers. But which first-round selections should fans be eager to see in Midnight Green this fall? Is there one player that rises above the rest, or does Roseman have options at pick 32? Here are 3 potential pick 32 targets who would be incredible additions to the Eagles roster. 1. James Pierce Jr. If, on the final day of the 2024 NCAA season, someone told a Volunteers fan that James Pierce Jr. might be available to the Eagles at pick 32, they would have called it crazy. Once considered a real contender for the best edge rusher, and in turn the best player in the 2025 NFL Draft, Pierce didn't quite produce up to expectations, which, when coupled with off-field concerns, has led to more than a few fans wondering what the future could hold for the speedy rusher. On film, Pierce has some of the best highlights you will ever see, but his play is inconsistent, with the potential first-round selection having plays, drives, and even games where he doesn't look like the sort of difference-maker worthy of a top pick. While Pierce Jr. did help his stock at the 2025 NFL Scouting Combine, running a 4.47 40-yard dash as the crown jewel of a solid showing, his stock hasn't rebounded in the same was as, say, Shamar Stewart, who had fewer sacks over his career at Texas A&M than the Tennessee rusher had last fall in Knoxville. While Pierce isn't a perfect prospect, he is fast, explosive, and being heavily overlooked during the pre-draft process, which could put a chip on his shoulder moving forward. With a need for additional bodies at the outside linebacker spot and Brandon Graham heading off to retirement, James could be a major steal at pick 32 if he falls to Philadelphia. 2. Colston Loveland, technically, the Eagles are loaded when it comes to tight ends, with Dallas Goedert, Grant Calcaterra, and E.J. Jenkins all still on the roster, with new additions Kylan Granson and Hunter Bryant forming over from the Indianapolis Colts and the Las Vegas Raiders, respectively. And yet, why did the Eagles sign 2 tight ends in free agency? Why are they being linked to some of the top tight ends in this year's class and to trade candidates like Michael Mayer and Kyle Pitts? Well, because it feels like Goedert's run is winding down in Philadelphia, with fans working through the stages of grief as the 2025 NFL Draft inches forward. While the Eagles may miss out on the top 2 tight ends in this year's class and have to settle for a player like Harold Fannin Jr., who led all players in the FBS in receiving yards last year, there is a world where Colston Loveland, out of Michigan, is still won the board at pick 32, and no one would be happier about that result than Roseman. One of the best players on one of the best teams in college football over the past few years, Loveland looks the part of a top-tier tight end. He was a contributor in the run game as a movable blocker, could catch the ball at the same level as expected TE1 Tyler Warren, and even took some snaps in the backfield where his versatility gave opposing defensive coordinators fits before the ball was snapped. On the Eagles, Loveland would be the best TE2 in the nation, much like Goedert's initial pairing with Zach Ertz back in the day, or could start at the position right out of the gate if Philadelphia opts to move on from the South Dakota product. Loveland would give the team versatility and an effective piece in a running game that even asks wide receivers to pull off key blocks, and most importantly of all, would give Roseman a price-controlled starter at a position of need for the next 4 seasons plus the 5th-year option. Throw that all together, and what do you have? Arguably the best player who could fall to the Eagles at pick 32 if the board shakes out in a relatively predictable way. 3. Malaki Starks, and, last but not least, Roseman could go back to his tried-and-true method and go out to draft a Bulldog from Georgia, with Malaki Starks the most likely of the big 3 to fall to the team at pick 32. Sure. There's a world where Jalon Walker or Michael Williams could fall to Philadelphia, as neither player is necessarily a guarantee to go top 10, but they both present enough upside to be taken at worst by a wildcard playoff team, which can't necessarily be said for Starks. Playing one of the less desirable positions in the NFL, with starting safeties not making that much more than a later first-round pick's 5th-year option on an AAV, Starks was thoroughly leapfrogged at the combine by Nick Emenwari, who ran the Georgia Products pedestrian numbers out of the building at the NFL Scouting Combine. Still, after saying goodbye to C.J. Gardner-Johnson mere weeks after winning the Super Bowl, bringing in Starks could effectively replace him with a similar caliber player right from the jump, with his entire rookie contract worth less than the balloon. Payment Roseman wanted off the books in 2025. Starks is a smart, cerebral safety who can play on either the strong or weak side, can moonlight in the box, and is even capable of playing slot cornerback, which could be more of an issue in 2025, what with Cooper DeJean likely moving outside more often to accommodate for the exits of Darius Slay and Isaiah Rodgers. If Starks is on the board at pick 32, the Eagles should be happy to add one of the best prospects in the 2025 NFL Draft to their roster and know that he will be a quality long-term starter on a team-friendly deal for the foreseeable future. And, now Birds fan, I want to hear from you. What's your opinion on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I don't know if you know this, but your opinion matters a lot for Birds. I'll be back any moment with more Eagles Nation news. Fly, Eagles. Fly!